We just a minute. So yes, we called the meeting at 5:36, and we just did the Pledge of Allegiance, so they'll move us right in a roll call.
Larry Bowman.
Present.
Davin Perry.
Present.
Cassandra Quiznow. Carrie Bro.
Present.
Bill Campbell.
Present.
Jesse Camacho.
Present.
And Jennifer Morton. And let the record show the following staff in attendance: City Manager Albert Tripp, City Attorney Dan Gibbons, Catherine Miller, Public Works Director, Heather Troutman, Building and Planning Director, Chief Richmond, and myself, Tara Moses, Finance Director. Pete Fish, Project Manager, Public Works, and Steve Flood.
All right, thank you. Council, what would you like to do about the absence of Miss Morton and Miss Grisnell? Motion, do I have a second? Second, thank you, Mr. Camacho. Any questions or comments? Seeing any, all those in favor? All right, that passed unanimously. Moves on to tonight's agenda approval. We do have 4 additions that are in front of us. And those, I think one of them is just ordinance, but we're not being asked to take action on it. That one will actually come back to us on 3-2. Then a work order, task order, and a task order. So with that, council, what would you like to do about tonight's agenda? I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? That 2 passed unanimously. Then move us on to, I don't see anything for announcements, presentations at this point. Council reports. Any, Bill? All right. The only thing that I have is next week, I will be flying out to DC early Tuesday morning, right? Yeah, it's Tuesday morning, like 5:30 in the morning to their lobbyist out there to go fight for some money, see what we can do, get some more funds. But that's all I have. Staff reports.
Council, one brief reminder for our retreat planning committee, which includes Jesse, Davin, and Jennifer. We're scheduled to meet right after this meeting. I think Jennifer's going to join on this online, and the other 3 of us, we can remain in this space and do it via Zoom with her.
No report from me.
Catherine.
Thank you. From Public Works, just want to let council know we have been in conversations with our financial consultant FCS, specifically on the redoing of the rates, the conversation about the different rate categories. And we are on schedule for our March conversation that I've been mentioning to council along. They're busy working. They've got all of the closure data information. Thank you, Tara, for getting that done from 2025. So now they can run up to 2025 for years of information. So that is moving forward. And the other item is the West Prairie study that is still underway. Been working with our consultant. A couple of steps were remaining. We had some cost estimating that was needed to be done before we could hand it to our financial group, which also happens to be FCS as well. They need to run the costs of each of the different scenarios. And I've been promised that the last data of the cost estimating is going from our engineering consulting over to our financial consulting. So I've asked by Friday to give me a full schedule to understand when we would see internally that first draft. That we of course need to make sure we've proofread the draft and made any kind of edits or anything that they missed or whatever taken care of before we bring it to council, obviously, and share it out with the larger community. So thank you.
Chief.
Good evening, Chair and Council. Just a couple quick notes. We were able to promote a couple of command staff members the last couple of weeks. Lieutenant Keith is now Captain Keith, and Sergeant Madison is now Lieutenant Madison. So we have those to report. And our Kingdom Wrestling program is going great at the Public Safety Building complex. That's amazing. I think over 100 attendees and kids that the Chaplain Powers and his team are putting together, along with Corporal Johnson's, a lot of other volunteers. It's a wonderful opportunity to facilitate for our children. So we've been enjoying that greatly. Thank you.
All right. Tell Captain Keith we said congratulations.
Heather?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to give you an update on the steering committee of elected officials. As I recall from our last week's briefing, that meeting of elected officials was occurring last Wednesday. During that conversation, we gave an update on the status of our comprehensive plan. We are going to hit a target hopefully of June of this year for adoption, and our draft will be coming out in early March. So just a couple of weeks for that plan. One of the other items that I had mentioned was that one of the commissioners wanted to propose a home ownership goal, and the steering committee voted to create a task force to recommend the steering committee for a home ownership goal. And I would just again advise that this is very dangerous for several communities in Spokane County that cannot meet a home ownership target, specifically Cheney at 35% of home ownership, Airway Heights at 33%, and the city of Spokane Valley at 54%. It would be very difficult for these communities to meet a homeownership goal at 70%, which was identified early in this discussion. And if it were passed as such, it may make a measure that would make our plan susceptible to appeal. And we all know what happens on appeal of plans that are found to be non-compliant. There is a subcommittee that's being created to review this issue. Several of the communities felt it may be more appropriate to adopt local homeownership goals. That may be more appropriate. I'm not able to make the next meeting of the steering committee on March 9th. So I just wanted to bring this to the council's attention and again, express concerns over a homeownership goal or requiring homeownership measures that could negatively affect our allocation and distribution of housing by income bands, especially compared to other communities in Spokane County. Are there any questions?
No, and thank you for your briefing and everything else. And I had piggyback on that, and asked a couple of pertinent questions to the steering committee as well. But yeah, I share the same sentiments about that. You know, even though I did vote for, the committee itself, the committee has to understand that each community is absolutely different, and we cannot have a blanket approach to every single community in there. And that's also why I think it's important for us to not only be active and involved in the steering committee of elected officials for the housing authority, but at the same time, be on subcommittees like that to be able to voice concerns and whatnot. Because if we get, pigeonholed into or backed into a corner for something that we have no control over, especially with Cheney and Eastern Washington University, and then us with, how it's crazy it is with, Fairchild and having our unique situation here, that we got to be able to tell our story. And that's from the start kind of what I've said. Just we need to tell our story out there. So no, but thank you for what you did on.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we do appreciate participation of the steering committee in helping us navigate toward what is a pretty significant upgrade to master planning for our community as required under the state. So thank you.
Yeah.
Quick question. Will we have a representative there? You said March 9th in your.
March 9th is the next steering committee meeting, but there, in
I'll
addition
be
to
there.
that, will be a subcommittee meeting, which there would be a representative. I'm not sure that meeting's been scheduled as of yet, but
I haven't got word that
Mhm.
it's been scheduled yet. So
Thank you.
yeah, and there were other concerns that were brought up during that too. I mean, there were a couple different representatives from the municipalities around the local area that voiced concerns about it. But, if we're at least going to have a discussion on it, which it's not bad to discuss things, but the voices of especially smaller communities need to be heard. So if we're going to go there, we're going to have a conversation. We need to be able to lay out what works for Airway Heights out on the table.
That's very pointed. The city of Spokane also doesn't have a rental and homeownership rate that meets that 70% goal. Both the city of the Valley and the city of Spokane were in favor of their own programs rather than a countywide planning policy, as I recall from the discussion from their elected representatives.
We'll keep fighting. Keep it up on the BTAC. Any other questions for Mr. Chapman?
Yeah, is there a reference as to where we can actually look at this thing? And because, I agree. I just like to read up more on it.
Well, the steering committee of elected officials, it is an open meeting, is from online. I don't know who gets the information disseminated, but I believe on the county website, it's on there, right? Regarding these meetings.
The Zoom link is on their website.
But we had a problem with the Zoom link even
The
this last
problem,
time.
yep, they had two different links. One was a
Oh, yeah.
Teams, one was a Zoom this last time, so it was difficult to get everybody in. But generally speaking, the link is on the county website. The packet for each steering committee comes to three of us. So Larry is the representative, Albert as the city manager, and myself as the planning director. I'd be happy to forward that to the council so they can have that. In this particular case, there's been no draft presented, only discussed
Yeah.
as a point of reference to have a goal and what that target might be.
Yeah. No, and that was one of my concerns is, they had the votes to pass it in no matter what, so may as well just raise a hand and say, hey, I'll also be on there. So at least that way we can ensure that, somebody's there to voice their concerns. But yeah, Heather does a great job at the PTAC level, which is basically the planning commissioners or from the planning side. And then from our sides, I actually let her, hey, what questions do I need to ask? They have the expertise on it. So I'm just there to, ask the pertinent questions and to make sure that it's not just on record, but make sure we understand that we're being heard.
Yeah, because honestly, I agree. We're not going to be able to meet that 70% percentile expectations because we are different.
Yeah.
That's right off the top. But I'd really like to be well informed as to what we're going to ask and why. And that's just me,
Well, and that's another reason why we bring up, stuff in this forum. So that way we can get the questions together. So that way, if, one of us is more than likely going to be there, we can ask those questions at that point. So if we come together as a body here, get briefed, be able to bring stuff up at our level, then we can get those questions out and get them listed, get them to me, and then I can ask it from my level. And then Heather can also ask stuff from the planning side of it as well, so we got one leg up and one leg kind of coming down. So hopefully they'll take it into consideration what we say. So, all right, anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any staff
Yeah.
updates? Steve? None for me.
Okay. And Jennifer's online. Did you get when she came on? Okay.
Yep.
All right, cool. And then, yeah, Mr. Camacho on that, Heather, if you want to disseminate that too, to the council or whoever else, when we get the packets in. So that way, because the last time they had a problem with the website link didn't work, but the agenda packet, the link that was in there did work. So, because I was having a problem logging in as well. I just usually try to log in about 5 to 10 minutes early. So I went into the agenda, did it that way, and it worked out. All right.
Thank you.
That'll move us into public hearing. We do have one public hearing tonight for the ADA transition plan. So at this point in time, we'll go ahead and receive the briefing for it, but also open up the public hearing directly after that.
Good evening, council. Here before you tonight will be the, hopefully, the ordinance adoption for the ADA transition plan. And just as a quick reminder, the ADA transition plan is required for 3 reasons. One is to keep us eligible for federal funding. The second is because it's required in the Federal ADA Act. And the third reason is because it's required under GMA. So we would be asking after the public hearing tonight that the council would adopt the ordinance C-1115 after its second reading.
All right, and at this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for the ADA transition plan. If there's anybody who would like to address council or even bring anything up to Mr. Flood, please do so at this time. Not seeing anybody. Is there anybody online who would like to speak on the ADA transition plan? All right, I am not seeing anybody at this point. And council, does anybody have anything on this? Questions, comments, concern? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 5:52 p.m. And move us on to the consent agenda. Item CA1, approval of minutes for February 2nd, 2026. CA2 is February 9th, 2026 City Council meeting minutes. Item CA3 is the purchase approval registry in the amount of $43,915.50 to Payne Hamlin. CA4 is the Southside Sewer Work Order 2024-02 Amendment 01 in the amount of $17,368.71, which these items have been briefed previously. Item CA5 is Task Order 2, General Development Review Engineering. Task Order number 2 is not to exceed $100,000 for each agency's engineering services. And then CA6 is Task Order 3, General Development Review and Engineering, which also is not to exceed $100,000 for engineering services. Council, at this time, what would we like to do about tonight's consent agenda? I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, Jennifer, I seen your hand. That passed unanimously. I'm gonna move us on to item A, which is the co-sponsor clothing allowance. Chief Richmond, the floor is all yours, sir.
Chair and council, thank you. I believe I briefed this at the last study session. I
You
believe
did.
you passed it. So I think that's already,
Oh, we did pass that.
yes, I believe you did. I believe you took
Oh.
action at the last study session. So
Yeah,
I think this
okay.
has been inadvertently put on the agenda.
You are absolutely correct. I remember doing that because we had a little time constraint there. Okay. All right, so item B is going to be the CHIP award of second acceptance. Ms. Miller, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair and Council. We did brief this at the last study session. This is the Connecting Housing and Infrastructure Grant to nonprofit organizations, the Community Frameworks and Habitat for Humanity, both applied through the city of Airway Heights to obtain these funds. These funds specifically are to pay their general facility charge, their GFCs, when they come in to build the housing. This is all intentionally to keep low-income housing as affordable as possible for these nonprofits as they're building them out. Excuse me. The community frameworks, they received $495,344 as part of their grant. Again, these grants actually come to the city of Airway Heights when they come in for their building permitting process. And we, at that time, required developers to pay GFCs. We would then go to the CHIP grant funding and request that GFC funding instead of from the developer. That's how the process will work. And then the Habitat for Humanity applied for and did receive $1 million. So the 1.4 million and change are grants that again will come to the city of Airway Heights. We're asking for council to approve, accept these grants, as well as provide me the authority to sign and enter into the contracts that we'll need to with Commerce to process these funds.
All right, thank you, council. What would we like to do about item B? I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, that passed unanimously. That moves on to item C, which is the on-call contract acceptance. Mr. Fish, the floor is yours, sir.
Good evening, council. I'm here tonight to ask for authorization of the 5 contracts, the on-call support services contracts with 5 engineering firms. These contracts give Public Works flexibility to assign work orders for specific tasks as they arise. Public Works is asking council to authorize the on-call support services contracts. Each one would be in the amount of $15,000 for a total of $75,000, not to exceed. We would we would come up with a scope of services and negotiate a price and then come back to council for approval of those specific tasks. On-call contracts. Well, each one is $1 million. Those are 15,000 for 5 of them. Okay, these contracts are for $1 million each. For a total of $5 million.
So council, this was also briefed last week, if you recall, as the on-call contract. This is what I call the umbrella or the master contract. We have 5 of them. Each one of them will be not to exceed $1 million. And then we come back to council for task orders against those 5 contracts. So each task order, council will understand exactly how much we're asking for and exactly the scope we're asking to accomplish under those or under that particular task order, and then ask for that approval. And so we will be on the budgeting monitoring side, make sure that we're not obviously exceeding any one contract by any amount. We don't expect obviously to exceed $5 million. That's not the purpose here. The purpose here is to do our general engineering that we've been doing historically under that one contract that we found to be limiting in terms of getting service turnaround on our time schedules that we need, as well as just trying to deal with multiple projects and being able to get, again, our schedules met as we go through. Yes.
On the briefing sheet, the fiscal impact just under 1.5 million for the CHIP grants. What is that number referring to?
So the CHIP grants are under item number B.
This is on this item though.
Okay. I apologize that they are not in the order that you need to see them.
It's on page, I think, 44 of the packet.
Okay. Zip over to full agenda.
Unless that is the second page of the CHIPS one and it's out of order. That could be. If that, the CHIPS one does not have the second, the portion of the funding amount, so.
Probably what it is.
Let me get up to,
That,
Yep, that's exactly what it is. It's the carryover on it.
it's a carryover. Okay, thank you. Sorry if there's a second page there. It's
Oh,
jumping out at you.
and this amount for the $1 million, it's not, we're not spending $1 million. This just gives you the right to go
Up to.
seek the engineering services in the amount of that, but
Exactly.
any amount will be negotiated, brought back to council in that regard.
Correct.
Okay.
And in fact, case in point, after we get through this item, we have several of those task orders that will start to go against that $1 million, if you will.
Yeah.
In
And
terms of
this is
that.
just to ensure that we have a host of engineers that we can put this out to work on our timeline, our schedule, and work within.
Correct.
Yeah. So that way it's not bottlenecking into one engineering firm that sits on something, especially for anything that's time sensitive.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Council, what would we like to do about the 5 on-call contracts?
Actually, I have one question.
Go ahead, sir.
Follow-up question. So I'm looking at some of the language in terms of how we're going to keep track of these individual work orders. We have task orders. 1, 2, 3. Is there a plan that we can task orders segregated contractor to contractor,
Yes.
subject to subject?
So we're going to be monitoring each individual contract. Each individual master contract will have a spreadsheet of all of the task orders, starting with number 1 and going as far as it goes. And we're going to, across the board, look at all 5 master contracts and budget to our kind of historical levels in terms of what we've budgeted for 2026. And so we'll be able to obviously maintain our intention to budget, to manage, to make sure again that we're getting our quick responses that we need so we can get the work done that we need. So this was, as I mentioned, when we started this process, our attempt to get more efficient. We've put all of these contractors on contracts under a 1 year with multiple extensions if we feel like it's getting us the efficiencies that we were expecting out of this process. So this is a in process, experience in terms of making sure if it doesn't work, we're going to scrap it and go to something that does. But the intention is we know what we've had in place is not working for us in terms of how we're trying to respond to the multiple requests we're getting, basically, in terms of we've got Highway US 2 we're trying to chase for funding. We've got a lot of deadlines that we have to meet. We're still trying to get maintenance done in terms of within Public Works. We've got a whole plant that we need to bring up to current standards in several different ways. We just have a lot on our plate, and this is an attempt to try to better manage our response times.
And then with that, can you give us just one real world example, just something hypothetical of why we're doing what we're doing? Like kind of why it would help us to do it in this way.
It truly comes down to competition, because now we will have 3 general engineering firms that we can go to. So when we have a general engineering task, we can call the one and say, this is my time, can you make it? And if you can't make it, I need to call the next one and see if they can make it. So that gives us that ability to, again, find the best response we can up front. And obviously, if we get one contract that just doesn't deliver on a consistent basis, then we know we're not going to give them a lot of complexity, basically. It again allows us to kind of control our outcome is the intent, which is timely responses, keeping within our budgets as we go through any task.
Currently, we have just a few contracts with a lot of different tasks. And I'm finding it harder to keep track of those costs. This will separate those out, and each invoice we can track what is spent, what our total is, what we've spent, and what we're looking at before we go on. And I can track those instead of being a month behind. I'm going to have a spreadsheet that tracks all this. A lot simpler than the way it has been.
So we can have.
So if we're dealing with like a street scenario, 6th Avenue, right? We know that the general excavation should cost us this amount and take this amount of time. That will be tracked under this process.
A better example might be, for example, Steve Flood is in charge of reviewing development. And right now, when we get a bill, we get development charges intermixed with 6th Avenue charges, mixed in with different work that's going on. But the way we're built this, we're going to have one task for design review that Steve will then be able to go to that task order and see where we're at in terms of that particular contract.
Okay. Just streamlines, make it more efficient. Go ahead.
This is sounding like, because I know it's probably the first time you've done this, where 5 contracts.
Well, here, yes, but
yeah,
I've got a history of multiple contracts going out and dealing with similar type of work.
Now, can we consider this as something like a pilot project so that we can probably consolidate at the end and see with facts written on paper that, hey, this engineer works better than this one, and then narrow it down to maybe one engineer? Or is it just different engineers for different?
Yeah, the end intent is to keep what we have.
Okay.
If it works and it works well, I think what the framework we built, I believe, will allow us again to have the ability to control our destiny, which is timely responses so we can meet our deadlines for grants and everything else we have on our books to meet for deadlines.
Okay.
This gives us, again, that ability to leverage against the different consultants to say, if you can't, no problem, not this time, no worries, we're going to go to the next one. If they can't, we got the 3rd one. And for the most part, I don't expect all 3 not to be able to perform.
And that would allow us the flexibility to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it won't bottleneck to a single engineer at that point. But even at the same time, what it'll allow us to do is, even into the future, if one specific engineer is not technically working out, this doesn't mean that we can't go after other engineering firms to add them into the pool.
Correct.
To make sure that we have the best pool of resources to pull from.
Exactly.
So no, I really like the.
So like I said, the only thing is if for whatever reason it doesn't work, which I can't conceive of right now, I'll give you an example, but we just wanted to let you know we intended to be flexible. And this isn't, we're going to cram it down and make it work. We're going to see what works, make sure it works, make any adjustments as we need.
Yeah.
Just quick note from a practical side, I think the statute only requires you select one, but as Catherine noted, what we found in the past, engineers are very few. The market, that industry has a very long lead time in terms of preparing more engineers. So it just makes our ability to be able to get the work done more timely, more effectively, cheaper, that much more challenging. So this gives you options.
Thank you.
You bet. And, you know, not to confuse you into the future, but we will have to come back from time to time because some of our grant requirements require a different way of selecting design engineers, which may not fit how we handle these. So if they don't fit, we do have to go out in a separate process, and it's
Bid
all
process,
because
yeah.
of federal or state funding if they have specific language. But this on-call, I'm very familiar with on-call lists like this in terms of my career. It works really well to have someone already on the books, ready to know that we're going to call them in these fields of areas.
Yeah.
And we've got, again, them broken out to 3, basically the civil engineering side and 2 for the traffic engineering side. So between all 5, again, we feel like we've got the flexibility we need.
So let me ask you this then. Let's say an engineering firm catches wind that there is these contracts out there.
Mhm.
You know, will new contractors be able to come in and say, hey, we would like to be on that list as well?
Sure. After the contracts expire, we will go out and recreate a new, fresh on-call list.
Okay.
Or again, if we learn that we have a dud, if you will, that's not working for us.
Yeah.
We have that opportunity to stop and open the field up again and refill with another
Okay.
one.
Yeah. All right.
The 5 firms currently, these contracts know of each other. They know what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, it creates, hey, if we don't do this in this time right now, in the scope of time that they want us to do it, they're just going to go to somebody else. We need to get it done in a timely manner and
That's
for,
the-
yeah,
that's
no,
the
and that creates competition, and that's capitalism.
And by no means, we feel we have very qualified groups, don't get me wrong at all, but everybody isn't just waiting for the city of Airway Heights to call, right? We're
Absolutely,
obviously
yeah.
working with other people, so we just wanted to have that flexibility, say again, no problem.
Yeah.
We'll try it next time and go down the list.
I like it. All right, council, what would you like to do about the approval for the on-call contracts?
Move to approve.
Have a motion, do I have a second? All right, I have a second. Any further questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? All right, I see your hand, Ms. Morton. Pass unanimously.
Thank you, council. Before you move on, if you don't mind, the agenda items that you did add are now part of the task orders. If we could speak
Yeah.
to those. I was going to keep Pete up here to talk about task order number 1, the general engineering.
So why don't we do this then? And knowing that we have the additional items for 10D, 10F, 10E, and 10F, right?
At
Let's
least
just
from-
go ahead and go through 10D, 10E, and 10F. And then whenever we talk about item 11, we'll go to 11F on here. Sound good?
Thank you.
So the floor is all yours for 10D, E, and F.
Okay, with the execution of the 5 on-call support services contracts, these 5 general engineering task orders for Public Works to assign specific tasks as they arise. 5 tasks, $15,000 not to exceed for each task for a total of $75,000. Public Works would ask council to authorize the Public Works Director to execute these 5 general engineering tasks.
Because it's general engineering, when we talk about where the funds are going to come from, that's the only part that's going to be dynamic in terms of if it's something dealing with our arterial streets, we're going to turn to the Transportation Benefit District funds to deal with those. When it's a question that comes in dealing with water or sewer, we're going to turn to our utility funds to pay for that. The intention, as you see, is a very small dollar amount. This is when I get the cold call from Albert, for example, that says, I need this information in a very short time. Can you get this for me? It's a technical question that I need to turn to an engineering firm to get run down for me. It's not intended to be a large project. It's intended to cover an hour or 2 worth of work. So we will deal with those bills as they come in and work with, with our finance director. And that will be the only task order that has a little bit of that generacy that we have to on the fly, if you will, dynamically as they come in, be able to communicate which fund those that they come from.
All right, and which one is this? We only have
Would you read off the name of that title?
work order number one. Okay.
Work order number 1 for general engineering.
Oh, that's where I was getting mixed up because the fiscal impact said to be determined on that one. Okay.
And that's why.
So fiscal impact was 75 grand potentially. And where's that coming from?
Again, depending on when the call comes in, we'll make that quick determination. Is this a call, a request for information that will, actually, we need to stop and just do a task order and come to council? Or is this something that just, again, is an hour, 2 hours worth of work, but we still is a pertinent information that we need to get back?
Okay.
So when those type of calls come in, we'll make that distinction. Is this something we need to turn into its own standalone task order? Or is this something small enough because I only have 15,000 for the entire year in terms of, I can't burn this up in one issue. So it really is intended to be responsive to what's coming at us.
Okay. Any more questions on item 10D, the call task order number 1? All right, council, what would you like to do about this task order?
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, that first one passed unanimously. That'll move us on to the community engineering task order number 2 for
Could I-
water system plan completion. The floor is all
Water
yours.
system plan. Thank you. 10E is the water system plan completion. We did again brief this at the last study session. This is a continuation of our existing water system plan work. However, when we put in our document to Department of Health, they ended up taking, I think, close to a year. It was pre my time, so it's around a year before they got back to us with the information. And they basically said, since it's been a year, go ahead and update it to the newest information, bringing in 2024 and 2025 information. So that was kind of one request that came in. The other one was they wanted us to include an asset management section in the overall water system plan. So this task order is to add those additional work items onto the work again that we've already been doing. But in the background, we had some changes with our consultants. One left a firm, started their own firm, but they're the workhorse of the work. So it just made sense to put it under the task order, and then it'll be a seamless process in terms of finishing the work they started.
Okay. All
This
right.
task order is going to be for $33,430. It is utility funds in terms of the water system upgrade or system plan completion that we need to do.
Okay, council, what would you like to do about item 10E, or the change order for the water system plan acceptance? What would you like to do? Go ahead.
Correct. Correct. The first 5 was task order number 1. That's going to be standing all year for those random calls that we get that we need some immediate response to. So we all know when we're doing our work, if we talk about task order number 1 for any of the 5, we know that's a 15,000 small request. Then after that, we're starting other task orders. It happens to be under this master contract with community engineering is task order number 2 now. Under that one of the 5. Correct. You bet.
No, it sounds like it just streamline it for you guys. Engineering firm X, work order, no, or,
Exactly.
whatever order it is underneath that firm, you can go directly to it and you know exactly which category it's in,
Yep.
which.
And we've got the sum at the bottom, how much we've approved to date and where we're at in any point in time.
Okay. All right, council, any more questions? Not seeing any. All right, what do we like to do? A motion, do I have a second? All right, thank you, Carrie. Any more questions, more comments, or anything else? Nope, not seeing any. All right, all those in favor? All right, work order 2 passed unanimously. And then there's 2 more. So last one for item 10 on here is going to be 10F, which is task order number 3 for the Civitech acceptance.
Okay, and just to, because it's all in one night, under the consent agenda, you've already approved task order number 2, which was the engineering review. Like I mentioned, Steve Flood does our developer commercial residential reviews. That was taken up for Civitech under change order, as task order number 2. So that's why you're seeing my task order number 3. So they're in order. You got 1, 2, and 3 now for that particular engineering firm, Civitech. This one is covering the grant writing. Again, this is a topic I covered last week at the study session. Effectively, we've got multiple grants that are coming due in a very short order and looking for that support to get the grants in on time. Specifically, there's a lot of crash data analysis that needs to happen. This is technical work that has to go into our grants effectively. And we're looking to hire CivTech to get us through these several work items.
So this gives us the engineering information we need to apply for those
In order to
grants.
fill out the questions, we need
Yeah.
that answer. And they're being hired to help actually fill out the application with us, as well as do the analysis.
Yeah, okay. So this is nothing that Elise could do on her own. She would have to have a firm no matter what
Correct.
to
In fact,
assist
we-
her and answer those questions. Yeah, I just wanted to,
Oh, very much
bring
so.
that up
I
so
would
that
use
way-
Elise if I could, but actually I had her on almost an hour call today for our build grant for US 2.
yeah,
And she made a comment that thank goodness she's not leading this one because it's, it's
Above
all
her head.
engineering, work
Yeah.
that we're doing here in terms of analyzing and responding to. She does a great job reviewing those grants. I'm going to have her review my grant just to make sure it from a third party, if you will, fresh eyes, it reads well.
yeah,
When
no,
we talk about the
right people,
required
right people, right
analysis.
place.
Yeah, exactly. Very
Yeah.
much so.
And building on what Catherine noted from a non-technical transportation, water, sewer, at least does support as well. Case in point, Catherine's gathering letters of support for the US 2 bill grant, at least assisting with that. So she plugs in where she's able to
Very
help
much
with that.
plugging in. But to ask her to take on this task is
Just, yeah, outside of
outside of that. For
probably
sure.
her comfort. I mean, obviously we want the right people doing the right job so that way we can get the grants.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, not overload our current grant writer.
Yeah, typically the engineering, the transportation grants are typically heavy in data analysis, crash analysis, responding to questions around cost benefit analysis. These things you pretty much at this point we're looking to that technical support for.
So with this one, 70-something thousand dollars, what is the hope if we do get awarded the grant that we would get back?
Well, any $5 million grant will more than pay for this. So any
Yeah.
one grant we get returned back on will more than pay for this effort. I'm also, for example, the US 2 phase 1, we're asking for $7 million, on that grant. And if we're able to get that, obviously.
Yeah,
that
spend
will-
100, get 7.
Yeah. I always jokingly say in the capital side of our world, we more than pay for our salaries every time we get a grant in terms of the millions of dollars that you can bring in. So it definitely more than pays for itself. And having the ability to have the consultant there to make sure we have quality data that's going in. Obviously, we want the best applications we can. Doesn't guarantee an outcome, but we certainly want to make sure we have our best foot forward.
No, absolutely. And I mean, Mr. Tripp and I have talked about this many, many times, is making sure that, when we're ready to do something or when we're ready to apply for a grant, that we have all the information available. But the same thing goes for projects. When we're ready for a project, we hand over something that's shovel ready.
Yeah.
It's saying, hey, we're ready. Now let's do this.
Yes, and all these grants are on our arterial system. Therefore, we are going to be looking to the Transportation Benefit District funds to pay for this work order.
Okay.
Task order, excuse me.
All right. Any questions or comments? All right, council, would you like to do about item 10F?
Move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? All right, we got a second. Any questions or comments?
Just want to point out again, this is always asking for my authorization to sign all of these documents.
Yep. All right, not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, that's approved. No, and like I said, we just like to,
Very much.
just
Happy to
answer
any
every
questions.
question that we possibly can, because I mean, it looks like a lot of money, but what you get in return for the spent money is worth its weight in gold. So we've learned that throughout the years. We can't function without grants. So,
Thank you.
all right, with that being said, this will move us into item 11, which for ordinances, and this is one, so we do have item 11F. So we'll go through DE, switch over to the addition for F on this one. So the first item is the second read of ordinance C-1114 for NFC franchise agreement. If we can please get that in the record, please.
An ordinance of the City of Airway Heights, Washington, granting NFC Northwest LLC a non-exclusive franchise to construct, operate, and maintain a fiber optic telecommunications system within the City of Airway Heights, Washington, and setting forth the conditions accompanying the grant of the franchise.
Any questions or comments? All right, council, what would you like to do about ordinance C-1114 for the NFC franchise agreement?
Move to approve.
A motion, do I have a second? All right, thank you. Any questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? All right, that passed unanimously. That'll move us on to the second read of ordinance C-1115, establishing the ADA transition plan that we previously had the public hearing on.
An ordinance of the City of Airway Heights, Washington, adopting an ADA transition plan and providing for other matters properly related thereto.
All right, and we've already been briefed on this one. We were told that it was going to be in our packet agenda. Here it is. Any further questions or comments about the ADA transition plan? Anything? Bill, you good? All right, I got a motion. I have a second. Thank you, Mr. Macho. Any question up there, Ms. Morton? No? All right, all those in favor? All right, that too passed unanimously. That'll move us on to our last item of the evening, which is our last addition, which is 11F for the water concurrency ordinance for the first read. This is only going to be a first read. We are not taking action on it. We will see it back on 3-2.
An ordinance amending the water concurrency relating to city water service, water allocation determinations, and concurrency process to authorize water service connections for buildings and associated improvements and providing for other matters related thereto.
All right, and is there anything to brief on this one, Ms. Troutman?
I'll just briefly that since we briefed this to the council. For profit and nonprofit. Copies of the draft and they were supported.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Troutman? Not seeing any. Thank you. All right, I don't see any resolutions on here. No TBD stuff. At this time, is there anybody signed up for public comment? Not seeing any. Anybody online who would like to speak to the council? I have not seen any hand raised. All right, with that, we don't have any. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair and Council, I had one note I forgot to cover during my staff comment. You might recall last fall, the council authorized an upgrade to the IT system to include migrating from Windows 10 to 11 for those machines that were using it. Our email server was coming to the end of life and then also updating Office applications. So we've completed the 10 to 11. We're currently working on the email migration, which will take us away from using a on-premise server to using Microsoft 365 in the cloud. That'll also affect your email. And so later this week, we'll send out a guide for how to access your email during this transition period using an account very similar to the OWA one, except that I think this will be outlook.com. It'll be a temporary one until your email then gets rerouted back to your laptops and your cell phones. I'll also include two guides that how to connect your email to either iOS device or Android device as well, independent of what you have. But as we, if you have any challenges during that process, let me know, and then we can make sure we get you support for that. But it should be happening during this next few days, during this week, first part of next week.
All right.
IT, Albert's been pretty good at, I've called them and they've always come through for me. So, you know.
Yeah, they're usually pretty responsive. All right, no calls for an executive session. Not seeing any. All right, we will adjourn the meeting at 6:26. Thank you, everyone.